You know, think about pretty much any video game you've ever played. What's the goal? It's simple, right? Win. You beat the boss, you save the world, you get the high score. But what happens when the story is actually designed for you to fail? I don't mean just losing a life and having to retry. I mean, what if the entire point of the story is a tragedy?
So yeah, that's the big paradox we're going to dig into today. How can a medium that's built on the pure satisfaction of success possibly tell a story where the only real outcome is a tragic one? It seems like it shouldn't work. So let's dive in.
Okay, so to really get our heads around this problem, we first have to talk about a fundamental rule in most games. It's something that's so intuitive we barely even think about it, and that's the emotional connection between you, the player, and the character on the screen. And this right here, this shows that relationship perfectly. It's like a mirror. When we succeed at a challenge, we feel happy, we get that rush, and because our success is their success, the character in the game also achieves their goals. When we fail, well, we're both unhappy. Our moods are almost always perfectly in sync.
This is Gaming 101. It's that standard feedback loop. We feel good because we accomplished something, and the story rewards us with a happy hero who also got what they wanted. It's just a clean, totally satisfying emotional payoff. But this is where things start to get really complicated.
All right, now let's throw a wrench in the works. Let's introduce tragedy into this perfect system and just see how it shatters that feedback loop. We're about to see what happens when the player's success and the protagonist's fate go in completely opposite directions.
And that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? If a game is trying to tell a story like, say, Anna Karenina or Othello, stories where the end is absolutely devastating by design, how does that even work? If you win the game, does the protagonist still have to lose?
And this image, wow, it just nails the problem. You, the player, are happy. You did it. You beat the game. You saw the story all the way through to the end. But the protagonist, they're miserable. They've met their tragic end. All of a sudden, your goals as a player are completely misaligned with the character's well-being.
The fiction theorist Marie-Laure Ryan pointed this exact problem out. See, in a book or a movie, we watch a tragedy from a safe distance. We're observers. But in a game, we're in the driver's seat. So why on earth would anyone choose to actively chase after a painful, tragic fate for their own character? It kind of goes against the entire pleasure-seeking reason we play games in the first place.
I mean, just try to imagine seeing an ad like this. It sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? It just perfectly highlights how bizarre it is to frame a classic tragedy as a list of objectives you're supposed to achieve. The very idea of succeeding at being Othello is, well, it's deeply unsettling.
Okay, so you'd think with a problem this big, designers would just stay away, right? Well, the answer is yes and no. They have tried to tackle tragedy, but it's often in these indirect or incomplete ways. Let's look at a few examples of how they've experimented with it.
This table breaks it down really well. So you have something like the suicide game, where yeah, you achieve the tragic goal, but the whole thing is ironic, it lacks any real emotional weight. Then there's Burnout Paradise. You get all the self-destruction you want, but you're crashing cars. There's no human character to feel for. In God of War, Kratos' suicide attempt is in a cutscene. You watch it happen, but you don't do it. And then, in that incredibly powerful ending of Red Dead Redemption, the game literally takes control away from you right at the end. You become a spectator to John Marston's death, not the person who caused it.
So what's the takeaway here? It's that while games might flirt with tragic themes, they almost always pull back at the last second. They stop short of forcing the player to knowingly, willingly, and actively work toward the painful self-destruction of a character they've grown to care about. But there is another way to achieve tragedy. Let's explore a different and honestly, maybe a more powerful type of tragedy that games can create. This one isn't about physical destruction. It's about a deep, psychological suffering that comes from the slow, dawning realization of what you, the player, have actually done.
Okay, check this out. Take Brenda Brothwaite's board game Train. The rules seem simple, even abstract. Load the little figures onto the train cars, move the train down the track. You're just focusing on being efficient, on winning the game. And then, you have to draw a destination card. And you realize with this dawning horror that you haven't just been playing a game. You've been actively participating in the cold, brutal logistics of the Holocaust.
And that feeling, that has a name. It's called complicity. It's not just feeling sorry for a character. It's a painful feeling of personal responsibility for something horrible. You didn't just watch it happen. Your actions, your desire to win the game, made it happen. And that is an emotional tool that only interactive media can really use.
And this isn't just in board games, right? Think about Shadow of the Colossus. The game tells you you're a hero, that you're saving someone you love. But as you hunt down and kill each of these magnificent, peaceful creatures, this feeling starts to creep in that what you're doing is wrong. The game tricks you, and it makes you complicit in destroying innocence. And that is the really clever part. Complicity actually solves that whole paradox we started with. Instead of your feelings and the character's feelings being disconnected, it creates a brand new kind of alignment. Now, both you, the player, and the protagonist share the same deeply unpleasant feeling. The feeling of being flawed, of being tricked, of being responsible for something terrible.
So, what does this all mean when you put it together? Well, you start to arrive at this really powerful conclusion about the unique role that games play in the world of storytelling.
In traditional media, books and film, we're observers. We can feel pity, we can feel sorrow, sure, but we're fundamentally passive. In games, that wall between us and the story is just shattered. Our actions are the engine that drives the story forward, which means we have to bear some of the responsibility for what happens.
This quote just says it all, doesn't it? That shift from simple empathy to actual responsibility is the absolute game changer. It's the difference between feeling bad for someone and feeling bad because of what you did.
Okay, here's a great way to think about it. Remember that famous scene in Hitchcock's Psycho where Norman Bates is trying to sink the car in the swamp? As an audience member, you can privately, secretly, find yourself rooting for him to get away with it. But in a game, there's no private thought. You would have to be the one to push the car, to watch it sink. Your involvement is undeniable.
Games make our choices, our priorities, our actions totally explicit. By forcing us to participate in a tragedy instead of just watching it, they strip away our ability to deny our role in it. They literally give us nowhere to hide. And that forces us to confront not just the character's tragedy on screen, but maybe, just maybe, something about ourselves too.